Welcome back to another episode of the Grunge Bible Podcast. My name is Chris Salona, and I am here, as usual, with Ethan Shalloway, and we are so excited to be here for episode 136.
When we set out to do this podcast over 2 years ago, we didn't think that we could make it this far. But thanks to you guys, we're here right now, still podcasting in our rooms together. And for that, we're forever thankful.
Each and every week, the effort that we put in is only possible because of your support. So thanks everyone for being here as we settle in here for episode 136, the final episode of October. Another month is come and gone, and this will be coming out on October the 30th, and the spookiness is in the air a little bit, Ethan.
You know the rules. Let's open this pit up.
Let's fucking go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, spooky season is upon us.
Yeah, it's here.
And episode 136, pretty crazy. It is Saturday, a couple days before the release, but it's releasing one day before Halloween. And I think we've asked this before, but Chris, what are your takes on Halloween?
I think we did a Halloween episode maybe a year or 2 years ago. I don't like Halloween. It's not for me. I don't understand.
Never was?
It's never really been my thing. Obviously, when you're a kid, when you go trick-or-treating, and for the first probably 11 years of my life, I lived in a great neighborhood for that. They gave out the full-size candy bars and everything, so I liked it then, but I don't know, college, whatever, and especially now as an adult. But don't ask me what I'm doing later because I'm going to a Halloween party.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, Halloween wasn't big in my household.
No, I'm not surprised at that.
Yeah. But like we did do it. I mean, trick-or-treating was fun going out with the friends. I didn't do it like a ton, but when I did it, it was always pretty exciting.
It's good in a pinch.
And then college Halloween is just like
college. I mean, all bets are off
spooky.
For the collegiate Halloween. Yeah, it's very foreboding. It can be. So,
but tonight I'm actually I'm doing well. It was a long week actually. There was a lot going on, a lot of movement. Totally. But we made it, and as you can see, you're having a Narragansett beer, it looks like.
I am having a Narragansett beer.
I got this Sprite vodka cocktail I made for the season.
Excellent.
I got this winter spice cranberry Sprite.
Okay.
It's cut up a few limes, and I got the vodka right there if I need to refill.
Very good.
For fun, because we got parties later to go to. I'm actually going to... there's a brewing company, Trim Tab. It's one of my favorites here. But James Cox and the Mummy Cats are playing.
Oh, they're playing? No way. This is the first time you've seen them, right?
Yeah, I think it is actually. I don't think every time I tried to go, I missed them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've seen him. So I'm pretty excited. He puts on great shows. It's one of my favorite breweries, and they got comedians and some other live music. So I'm like, let's go. That
sounds
great.
fantastic. So, that's going to be a good one.
So
I like that.
That's why I'm drinking right now. Why not? Spooky
exactly.
season.
Cheers to that. So it sounds like you're in a good spot right now today.
Yeah. How are you doing today, man?
Nice. Well, similarly to you, it's been a week. A lot has happened. I had a little concert situation earlier this week. But, as we speak to the Grunge Bible Podcast, we're recording on a Saturday afternoon, which this is one of my least favorite time slots to record. And fate would have it that currently this is the last above 70 degree Fahrenheit day that we're going to get until the springtime, I would presume. So there's no other place that I would rather be to enjoy that day than in the confines of my own shitty little tiny apartment recording a Grunge Bible Podcast episode. But we have a promise that we have to keep, so that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, doesn't matter how nice it is, how shitty it is, we got to get this thing done, Chris. So here we are.
We've got some good
stuff. That's all right, because we always do. We always deliver something good and fun. So I hope that if you're listening out there, thank you very much. It means a lot. And I hope that we provide you with a little bit of entertainment and maybe some things to think about or songs to listen to. And that's why we do this thing. So thank you.
Exactly. And in particular, we're very thankful for the people that choose to support us in a financial way. And they can do that, and you can continue to do that by purchasing some merchandise. The link to that is available, as always, in the show notes. And additionally, you can choose to become a supporter of us each month on Patreon. As you may be familiar, we have a $2, $5, and $10 per month level. And as we like to do each week on this podcast, we like to thank the people that are at the top tier. And I have some exciting news we'll get to right after I read this list out. There is a standing offer to any top tier Patreon supporter that if you become a top tier supporter, you get to see a show with me. And recently we had another top level supporter take me up on that offer, and I'll be excited to talk about that in a little bit. But as it stands right now, our top level supporters are Pile of Punk, Lamellar Bone, Gochu John, Eric R. Berry, D-Boat, Corden Stewart, Keith White, Sherry Matthews, Michael McCready's Mustache, a little caterpillar up there, Epona, Granny Grunge, Alex Long, Seattle 4 fanboy from New Jersey, Eddie Vedder got me through my second divorce, Faith Bittner, Black Hole Sean, Chris LSMS, Nikki Six, Kara K, Rachel Corning, Millie, Doug Endy, What the Fuck's Up Denny's, The Blue Owl, Fuck Soup, Jamie Lynn, Lauren Irene, Alexa Shannon, Carlene Salona, and Jade Mercado. And as I mentioned, I saw Mudhoney just a few days ago with top level Patreon supporters Rachel Corning and D-Boat. So it was the first ever meeting of myself and D-Boat. We took in the mighty Mudhoney together at the Brighton Music Hall in Brighton, Massachusetts, and it was a great night. It was my first time seeing Mudhoney, and they still sound great. Something about the way that Mark sings has led the years to be very kind to him, and the songs sound great. The band's got pretty good energy, and it was really, really awesome, man.
Yeah, that's sick. I mean, Mudhoney, like, we missed the era, of course, but
right.
It's such a, I mean, that's a checklist band.
Yes.
In a way.
In a big way.
The fact that you got to see, in a big way. And like, I feel like, going into it, you may have had thoughts of what it would be, but then afterwards, you can tell that it was a great experience, and definitely was like, and a lot of times I find myself in those situations where you're seeing an older band and you're like, man, these guys were so important and so at the forefront of music scene that I love, that everything they do is like, I don't know, you kind of admire it. So I bet you it was really, really sick.
Yeah. I mean, they're at the end of the day, whatever ethos a band presents, at the end of the day, they're professionals. And I mean, these guys have been doing this for 35 years at this point. And you can tell, I mean, they are so seasoned, and it was just a joy to be able to watch them. Obviously, the importance that they have to the scene. Mudhoney, I think it's one of those things that Mudhoney is your favorite musician's favorite band in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of people from the era that we talk about has gleaned a lot of inspiration from Mudhoney. And it was just really awesome to be able to stand there. It was a small little venue, like 500 cap venue. So, you're able to get up kind of close a little bit as Ethan pours himself another drink. Here we are, 8 minutes and 15 seconds into the episode. So it's going to be that kind of podcast episode. But yeah, man, it was awesome. I recommend, I posted a video of You Got It, Keep It Out of My Face on the Grunge Bible Instagram feed. And I listed all of the remaining dates. There's about, I think, 16 or 17 remaining dates in the States. So I would highly recommend that if you live in the States, go check out that list. You can get a ticket and get in and see some Mudhoney action, because it was a really, really great show, and you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, I just saw a window. I didn't know, once the episode got rolling, I didn't know if I'd be able to. So
well, once I start rambling again, I mean, you could get up and, go get the mail, and I'd probably still be talking once you get back. So the
mailman is here.
The mailman is here.
Yeah. So what was it? What was it like meeting up with D-Boat? So that's
cool. D-Boat's the man. So D-Boat reached out to me. I forget, a little while ago. And he was like, I'm going to Mudhoney, like with my boy. Like, if you're going, like, we should totally meet up. And you know me, I'm always down to do stuff like that. Game. So met him at the venue. Like I walked in like 3 minutes before Mudhoney went on, so I missed both of the openers. D-Boat had gotten there a little bit earlier, but evidently the second opener, Hoover 3, was pretty good, but I missed that, so that's okay. Mudhoney more than made up for it, so it was super cool, and I imagine in the future, I'll be seeing another show with the mighty D-Boat. So It's always a good thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, fellowship.
Yeah, that is really cool. I'm jealous. I wish you called me right after the show when you're walking back to the crib, and I was like, I've been getting those calls a lot recently, and I'm like,
I've been on a good run with shows lately. Shows and fellowship. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, 100%. So you're doing your part, which is great. And next week we'll be able to go to a show together.
Yes.
On Thursday.
Yeah, this will be 3 Thursdays in a row that I'll have seen a show. So
that's a good streak.
I'm on a hot streak right now. Yeah, and sometimes you just got to keep the good times going. And I'm definitely excited to do that. We've got a wedding of an old teammate of ours in Charleston, South Carolina. So I'll be rolling down to Birmingham for a couple of days on the front end of that. Which that's a no-brainer. Anytime you have something like that, if you can add some additional time with the boys, you got to do it.
Oh yeah, I was deep in thought last night, and I was like, I'm so glad that Chris is coming in. And I want to put it out to the people. So we have to be in Charleston, South Carolina at 12 noon
on Friday.
We have a concert Thursday night, about 7.5 hours. If we leave right after the show, we can get in, say like 7 a.m. and sleep from like 7 to 12, or we can come back from the show, nap, and leave at like 7, or leave at like 3 or 4 a.m. and get there like right before. So then our day becomes like 3 a.m. to 3 a.m. or something, depending on how the wedding goes.
Right.
But what is the best play? Do we take a nap before we start driving, or do we drive and then get there and rest up?
I think
so that's for the people to decide.
Yeah.
What do you got, Chris?
I mean, where I stand. I think we have to take advantage of the post front bottom show euphoria and just kind of hit it hard. Let our focus on the road take us the rest of the way, because we're not gonna want to be up against the gun, and it'd be like 10:45 and we still have like 2 hours to make up, because we have to be like there for pictures at 12. So I think we grab a couple of hours of sleep at the hotel that we have, and we take.
And we're time traveling. We're going ahead in time now.
We are time traveling. So I think that's the best way. Some insurance, on the back end of it a little bit. So I think we leave once the show's over.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. We'll make sure we do it safely and responsibly, of course.
Yeah, exactly. We are very safe and responsible people. That's just the way. So this episode is coming out on October.
I'll drink to that.
I will drink to that too, my friend. This episode's coming out on the 30th of October. So the penultimate day of the month. And as we've been doing, we're going to roll through a couple of notable events to happen on the music calendar on the 30th of October. And then we're going to get into the spooky zone. We've got spooky songs, spooky bands, spookiest stage presence. We've got a whole bunch of superlatives that we want to hand out. But this is a light day on the calendar of music history, I guess, in terms of what I was interested in. I mean, obviously a lot happens every year, but I don't really care about it. So
a bunch of tertiary stuff that
exactly.
You can just throw out.
Yeah, so we picked a couple of things that we thought were pretty important, and we'll kick it off. October 30th, 1939, Grace Slick was born, the fantastic singer of the Jefferson Airplane and later the Jefferson Starship. I love as like the 60s turned into the 70s, there were some changes in the band. It's like, Airplane's not going to cut it anymore. We got to hop on the Starship and take us into this next decade. So if you have never seen it before, I highly recommend Jefferson Airplane's set at Woodstock. They had like the 5:30 to 7 a.m. time slot, and they just came out ripping. They were supposed to go on the previous night at like 8 or 9.
5:30 to 7 a.m.
Yeah,
dude,
like they woke everybody up. And so as the story goes, they were supposed to go on the night before, but like the schedule was fucked because it was Woodstock. So like the entire band just went on like an 8-hour bender and then just went onto the stage and just delivered a fantastic performance. And Grace Slick is, one of the more dynamic, front women of the not the 90s, the 60s and 70s and so on. So also in her later years has become quite the visual artist, actually. Nice little piece of trivia there. She's got some really cool art that she's been working on the last, I suppose now 20, 30 years. So happy birthday to Grace Slick.
Yeah, her being born in 39, that puts her like 84 years old. 84. That's crazy. I mean, that is really something else.
That's up there.
That's old.
Yeah, it's funny because like my grandmother is 85, and I'm just like, imagine if my grandmother was Grace Slick. The math works
exactly.
out. Who knows?
Exactly.
A lot of people could be a lot of different people. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. In the words of Victor Wooten, if you were put in my situation, you would have turned out the same way.
We'll get to that probably at the tail end of the episode. We've got a lot to cover. Let's kick it up a little bit to somebody who's a little bit more of a contemporary presence as it relates to music and is a little bit more aligned with music that we discuss. On October 30th, 1965, the great Gavin Rossdale was born, the leader of the band Bush, responsible for many, many 90s hits. That 16 Stone album is still just an absolute terror of an album. It's a really, really great album. So Gavin Rossdale, we hope he's out there somewhere celebrating.
Happy birthday, Gavin.
Yeah. On the non-zero chance that you're listening, Gavin, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, brother. Yeah. In the words of Drew McFadden, we may hear more from Gavin Rossdale later.
There's always the chance, you know?
There's always a chance that Gavin Rossdale may come up later in the podcast.
Well, the thing is, if Gavin Rossdale was in our position right now, he would be doing the exact same thing as well. To quote Victor Wooten, you just never know. You just never know. As Ethan's laughing right now, he's not able to speak.
Gavin Rossdale may show up again in this podcast. Oh my gosh. And you're right. Victor is exactly right. He would be in the same position we are.
He would be sitting down to record episode 136.
That's so good.
One last date or moment, an event on the 30th of October that I would like to shout out. I think we've probably discussed this artist at some point throughout the history of the podcast, but on this day in 2002, Warren Zevon, who was in the middle of the end stages of a battle with terminal illness, he went on David Letterman's Late Show, and Letterman dedicated the entire episode to Warren Zevon. They were really, really good friends, and Letterman was in particular, a very big champion of his music, and it is one of the more powerful just periods of time that I think two people have spent, in front of a television audience, certainly in the last 30 years or so, because Warren was dying, and he had released, he had received his diagnosis, and he chose in a similar way that Gord Downie did when he received his diagnosis. He's like, I'm going to create music, I'm going to play. And, the entire interview is just so poignant and emotional. I always think back to the song that he did on his last album called Keep Me in Your Heart for a While that Eddie Vedder's covered a few times. And it's just such a sobering, heavy song written by somebody who knows that they're at the end of their life. It's one of my favorite songs, and it's something, that I always think about as it relates to the people in my life, if they, when they inevitably move on. And he had perhaps the most famous quote from this interview that happened on the 30th of October. Letterman asks Warren Zevon, who is a really funny guy, he asks him, have you learned anything, not to take things for granted throughout, this diagnosis and your journey? And he's like, I learned to enjoy every sandwich. So you heard it from the man. Next time you dig into a nice deli sandwich, make sure to enjoy it. If nothing else, for Warren Zevon.
That's such good advice.
Yeah. That's
the
good.
simple things, and enjoy every sandwich. I like it.
Yeah. So Warren Zevon was a giant of his time, and his music is still very significant.
Yeah.
And always will be.
Oh, yeah. We love the lore of Warren Zevon.
Yeah, we do.
You've been on it for a while now, so.
Oh yeah, many years. So, and that'll continue. So it's important to note that today. And if you're not familiar with his music, and even if your only familiarity with him is Werewolves of London, I would definitely take some time to, sink your teeth into his catalog a little bit. There's a lot of really, really good stuff in there. He was hilarious. The song that I'm pretty sure we've mentioned on this podcast before, but it's called My Shit's Fucked Up. And that one's really, really special, and it's hilarious. So I would go and listen to that one too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely check him out. That is, I think that's the song of the week, Chris.
I think it was. I think Shit's Fucked Up was a song of the week.
One of the originals.
Yeah, that was like an early run. So the longtime listeners might remember that one.
They might remember that.
They might. So
that wraps up This Day in Music. Of course, episode 136 of the Grunge podcast is on that list of things that happened in music history. For this episode, we obviously want to take advantage of the calendar here, as we like to do, and Halloween's around, and when it comes to Halloween, I feel like costumes and spookiness is obviously really important, but I feel like what really ties the room together is the music that surrounds the holiday, right? The spooky music, the eerie, and the just kind of like, uncomfortable, scenes that you get involved in. And so we're thinking about, through, the grunge scene, there's a ton of music that can get pretty dark and can be really, ominous and have those type of, melodies to it that, gets you a little uneasy. And they're a little confusing at times. And so we compiled a list of a bunch of songs. We have a few like a bands to mention. There's a few things that like when I listen to, I just like, you just get a little freaked out. And so we're going to go through a few of these. And I mean, right at the top of the list, like this is like number one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
Do we want to start with this?
We're not talking about the monster mashes of the world, obviously. Like we're cutting to the chase here. And Ethan, I think you're right. I mean, this is the first song that came to mind when we had the idea to do the episode.
This is the only song.
And frankly, this could be the only entry into this list of spookiest songs from the grunge era. And I know we've been on a little bit of a kick with this song, I think, since we met up in Philly a couple of months ago. And that song
met up with the Hat Man.
Yeah, the Hat Man was present. And the soundtrack to the Hat Man's arrival was Applebite by Soundgarden. And I think this is Soundgarden at their most sinister, their most foreboding, their most otherworldly. I've been on a huge down on the upside
sound.
Kick. Yeah. It's just super echoey and scary. And like you could listen to the song anytime, anywhere, and it gives you that feeling that there's somebody like just over your shoulder, but like when you turn around and look, they're not there.
Yeah, dude. He is well, not the Hat Man. This song is it's just like it sets the scene so well, and it's so like the guitar just kind of playing throughout the entire song, and there's not much lyrics, and the lyrics are, it's just extremely kind of scary. Puts you in that feel. In the
way
someone's
this one,
looking after you.
Yeah, the way this one was recorded too, I think, is the cherry on top, and just the way that it sounds. And it sounds as if like there was a band rehearsing and somebody set up the mics like a couple of rooms over, and it just kind of like echoes a little bit, and like the vocals kind of linger just a little too long to where they get a little uncomfortable. Yeah, this is just one that is skyrocketing up my personal list of favorites, and as Down on the Upside has for me in a big way, I'd say the last couple of months.
Yeah, it's hard to like just throw on randomly because it's such a serious song in a way, or at least like it has like the undertones of being serious and scary. So it's not something you can just throw on. I don't know when the best time is to listen to it.
I will say we've got people.
What is the best time to listen to?
I mean, I think it's like late at night when you're alone.
Yeah. So when you're laying in bed and you think
or if you're just like walking down a city street, like an empty city street. And I'll have to say, Ethan, we have a bunch of people
take a tough situation and make it worse.
Exactly. We've got a bunch of people in our life that when these people recommend music to us, they almost always recommend, they're like, listen to this song, but make sure you listen with a good set of headphones, right? Like you got to plug in for this one. Applebite, like I don't suggest that all the time. Applebite is one of them where I'm like, you need to listen to Applebite with a good set of headphones, and like make sure there's like not much other noise in your environment at the time. Turn it up maybe a little louder than you would, and just kind of let it go right into your brain there. And I think that is it's the perfect Halloween song. It's the perfect spooky song. It just kind of makes you feel like you're not alone, which is why you should listen to it when you're objectively alone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is really a cool piece for Soundgarden to release. Like it's very different from a lot of the stuff you're gonna find. And
yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to hear them talk about it. I would love to find an interview of hearing them talk about why they wrote it.
Yeah, basically. And just kind of the lore behind it. If there's a deeper element to it, like a Never the Machine Forever type vibe.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was surprised that it didn't make the list that you came up with right away. But
yeah, I have to say, like, this is a really good genre for the topic that we're discussing today, because a lot of these bands have a lot of elements of just kind of, spooky and foreboding, aspects to them. And Soundgarden certainly does too. I mean, I even think of a song like 4th of July. I mean, that is like, that's dark, and there's a lot of darkness in Soundgarden's music, and that's the thing. Like the scariness. I mean, it can come across in a lot of different ways, and Soundgarden's got it, and I think Alice in Chains has it as well. There's something about Jerry
those
and
are the
Lane,
two bands.
Yeah, they're the standard bearers of the most popular bands of the '90s. I would say that kind of carried that torch of just like things that they just sound different, and they sound a little scary, and those harmonies between Jerry and Lane, and the way Jerry would play guitar, thinking of a song like Godsmack and even Heaven Beside You, and it just kind of sounds like the way that they would end a lot of their guitar phrases and their harmony phrasing. It just doesn't sound natural, and it sounds like it could be from somewhere else. And Alice in Chains is a perfect band for this time of year as well.
So would you put, if we had to rank them, top 4, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam?
In terms of their spookiness?
I'd say that probably the bottom. Are we put Pearl Jam or Nirvana at the bottom?
I don't think
top 2 are AFC.
Yeah, it's going to be a dogfight for the top spot, but I think Pearl Jam would be in the 4th position. Nirvana would be
they probably don't have as
many.
They probably don't have as many as Nirvana. And then the top 2 are Alice and Soundgarden. So are we leaning one way between the two of them? I feel like...
I mean, so Alice in Chains doesn't have Applebite, right? But the totality of the catalog would lead me to select Alice in Chains. I always think of the self-titled album as kind of being a great winter album, whereas I'll think about Facelift as being like a summertime album, and Dirt kind of fits somewhere in the middle. And Jar of Flies is just like a night album, in my opinion, or a night EP. Yeah. Excuse me. I think I would lean Alice. Yeah. You sound like you might lean Soundgarden.
Yeah, I think I might. I mean, just with their psychedelic side and their, visual, like you got Kim, you got Chris, and they look a little more, they're more intimidating and because that has a lot to do with this, I feel like, the way they deliver everything and the way they kind of sing. I mean, Lane and Jerry are, Lane and Jerry, but I feel like Soundgarden, the way they deliver a lot of their stuff, like you guys had Boot Camp, is on our list, and I mean, it is just such a, like, they have these like really drawn out kind of songs and riffs that are eerie all the time, and I don't know,
and even a lot of the subject matter.
Absolutely, exactly, and I think their psychedelic side can get pretty scary.
Yes,
that's the best way to put it. Lane, Alice, they have like their acoustic stuff or like their slower stuff is it's not as it's not as psychedelic. It's not as like how do I say it? I don't know. It's just a little bit more rock based, where Soundgarden I think gets a little more weird.
Yeah. There's a lot of weirdness.
I don't know. Is that accurate?
I think a way that I would want to describe Soundgarden in this capacity, if I could just use one word, they operated in the realm of the absurd a lot, and not like
they're kind of absurd, as we commonly use absurd,
wild. Like, oh, that's an absurd suggestion, but like in like the dictionary, like it's illogical and unreasonable, and just like arousing amusement and just ridiculous and like prone to being a catalyst for various delusions. I think there's a lot in that, and even away from Down on the Upside. I mean, a lot of the stuff on Bad Motor Finger and Super Unknown. I mean, let's look at the album artwork for Super Unknown. I mean, if that's not scary, I don't know what is. I mean, they're in good company, unknown, obviously, with Alice. Like what? You're alive in the super unknown. I mean, that's scary as fuck. I don't want to be alive in the super unknown. I don't want to visit the super unknown. I don't want to go there.
Or Down on the Upside. Yeah. You don't want to be on the down.
I don't want to encounter a Bad Motor Finger either.
I mean, and like I said, we're, psychedelics. I mean, and the core of spooky season is seeing things that aren't real. Yeah.
And even a king animal. What's that?
You get a lot. Yeah, you get a lot more into it with the Soundgarden stuff and lyrics than maybe you do with Alice. All that stuff is real. Soundgarden stuff is more a little bit the unknown.
Well, you think even like from Bad Motorfinger, like Drawing Flies, or the intro to Searching with My Good Eye Closed, like Do you hear a cow? This is my good eye, like all that stuff, and like all of like the screeching pigs and everything. Like it is. I think you may have sold me.
Absurd.
Yeah, it's absurd. They
absurd.
operate,
I like that.
and they're comfortable operating in the realm of the absurd. Whereas a lot of bands, like I think every band has like a track or two like that, where there's like we're gonna do some weird stuff, which I kind of think like Pearl Jam's got a couple of those things with like the the Red Bars of the World, Stupid Mop, and just like some different
Bugs,
Bugs, exactly. Dirty Frank, even to an extent. But Soundgarden really like they made it into a craft and like a consistent element of their music.
I mean, it's one of those things where like, oh, they play a song, you're like, okay, cool, I know what you're doing. Then all of a sudden you're like 4 songs and you're like, oh wait, this is like kind of who they are. Like they're on this, they're down on the upside. They're over there.
Yeah. Exactly. So I would say those two are at the top. I think Nirvana, obviously, just because Something in the Way exists, and just a lot of their recording techniques, particularly when it came to In Utero, I just think they present a lot of elements to that. Also, the last track that they did, You're Right. I mean, that one is kind of scary, and just like it's just like the vocals are just like, imagine like hearing that from another room when you thought you were alone.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, Cobain and the story of Nirvana is a lot more haunting than Pearl Jam's story in a lot of ways, and that side of it plays a role. And like you said, I mean, both Soundgarden and Alice in Chains, like their band history is a little more involved,
right?
Than like Pearl Jam, who's still all present.
I think those two bands certainly. I mean, the top 3 for sure. I mean, Nirvana, Alice, and Soundgarden. I think they operated in the darkness a fair bit more than maybe Pearl Jam did. But I do have to say, Pearl Jam. I mean, the 10 album. When you get the album and you put on track 1 of Once, that like instrumental at the beginning that is both the beginning of Once and the end of the studio track of Release. That kind of like airy, like leaking faucet type dirge that's going on there, that's a little spooky. But then like it's interesting though, because it's spooky and then it gives way to Once, which is just like a hard driving rock song, obviously. So I think they kind of visited that neighborhood. But Soundgarden and Alice in Chains were property owners, and Nirvana was renting one of the buildings. So that's how I would kind of shape it down. But there's other bands too from this era that did a lot of those things as well. I mean, obviously we would be very remiss if we didn't mention the Melvins. Even to a lesser extent, I think Mudhoney is involved in that too. And there's a lot of musicians from the time that are just like you don't want to look at them too long because you're a little afraid. And I mean, Maynard James Keenan, obviously, of Tool, while not being grunge in that sense, I mean he's one of them too, of just kind of bringing those vibes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Tool, I had to throw them on the list. I mean, he's one of those guys that like I feel like you go to the concert and he kind of steals your soul throughout the concert a few times, and the way that he performs is kind of not of this world, which I think Cornell kind of got into, and like Buzz, like kind of people that kind of like separate from their body. And I mean, the Melvins, I wrote down Civilized Worm. That's just like a weird, crazy song, and it's one of my favorites by them. And then Tool, like, I mean, you have Sober, which I always think about their music videos, because whenever I watch like Tool music videos, and you can throw in AIC, like their claymation stuff as well, like that's always really unsettling for like, just in general, like claymation is always like, it's just so fragmented that like, it's just a little like your brain's not used to it.
You feel disconnected from reality in a little bit of a way.
Yeah. So it was kind of a no-brainer to think about those two, because those, when you watch music videos and there's visuals to like what they're singing and the mood, like it takes you to a whole nother place of feeling for the song,
right?
And it just it always hits me so weird, so hard.
Yeah, I agree. And Soundgarden obviously did a lot of that too. I think of obviously Black Hole Sun, and even The Day I Tried to Live, Jesus Christ Pose. Rusty Cage is kind of a weird music video situation as well. One that I hadn't watched in a while until recently, and it's kind of like there was a conscious.
There was a lot of liberties taken.
Oh yeah,
for the music videos. I mean, like You don't get those
even you think of the
controversial
Jeremy
like,
video, like the famous Jeremy video. And for me, like I knew of the song Jeremy for a long time before I knew what it was about. So you imagine turning on MTV and like, oh shit, Jeremy music video, and like not knowing what the song was about, and especially the unedited version at the end when you get, you know, the blood splatter and everything that's going on at the end. I mean, there's a lot that's very, very unsettling about a lot of these songs, and that's a good point. You know, the music video is kind of like another avenue to get that message across. Where, you know, if you're listening and you're listening to the way the instruments sound, you might not be tuned into what the message or what they're trying to convey. But then when you get a music video going on like that, it's like, okay, let's like I'm watching it right now, and this is what the band wants me to glean from this song. Yeah,
this is what the artist This is what the artist had in mind when they were writing this.
And that's why I always love music videos too, because I mean, with every artist, you have varying degrees of forthcomingness about what they wrote the songs about. And, you know, there's artists that are like, you know, I don't talk about what I wrote the songs about because it doesn't matter. It's about what you get out of it. But when you're putting together a music video, that's a message that you're sending. And it's, I think in a lot of ways, it could be a lot easier to interpret than some lyrics, because words can mean anything, right? Depending on your state of mind or anything. And that's what Lane Staley said about Man in the Box. He's like, you know, I think it's about censorship, but, you know, when I was writing it, it meant something entirely different because I was really stoned, you know. But when you make a music video, it's just another avenue to get that message across. And I think a lot of times with these artists, if you ever go on a dive to try to learn about it, after your investigation, you're left with more questions than answers. It keeps you coming back though, and I think that's the greatest gift. I mean, shit, here we are 30 years later, and we're talking about this stuff, and it's exciting and it's stimulating, and we still don't have these answers. And I don't want the answers. It's like the dog chasing the mail truck. Like you like you might catch it, but like you kind of hope you don't.
Yeah, what's the fun in that?
Exactly. It's all about the chase.
So you wrote down something that I don't think you brought it up when you were talking about Pearl Jam, but you brought up "Stupid Mop," and I thought this was a great choice, great like, and I had to listen to it back, and I was because I'm not well versed in the stupid mop zones. I'm not well versed in the stupid mops of the world, but this is, but this song it has like, I mean, an easy way to make a song really scary is to have kind of like people talking in the background, like while the chaos is going on basically, and people are using megaphones or whatever. And this song is like a lot of that. I mean, I think it's kind of long. It's like a little bit longer than I think it's like 7 minutes. It's like a little bit longer than you'd expect, and it's kind of just wildness. This
song is fucked up.
Like if this is one of those things. If me and you were at a bar, we're having a good time, we were drinking, but all of a sudden it's like 2 a.m. and this song came
kill
on
the
in
vibe.
The bar. Well, yeah, this is obviously kill the vibe.
The vibe,
but
it would also
send me and Chris into a downward spiral of like we would be so confused why this song is playing, and like this is
not the song to have sprung on you if you've taken shrooms within the last 6 hours of your life.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like this would not be
this holiday? Is Halloween based around psychedelics? Like, I mean, I think that's what we're getting at. I think that's what we're getting to. Like, this is a psychedelic.
Well, I mean, if it is, Ethan, I could see a path where I could begin to enjoy Halloween a little bit more than I do currently. There's always that possibility.
Is the Hat Man Kris Kringle of Halloween?
Right.
Like,
yeah, who knows? And the crazy thing about Stupid Mop, so evidently the spoken voice recordings that are a part of it, evidently they came from tapings of a news segment that Eddie Vedder recorded when he was 17 years old. I don't know how they survived. I don't know what that process looked like, but that's where it comes from. But it's just weird. And I think a lot of these songs like seem like a conscious choice of like, okay, whatever the listener is expecting next, let's do the exact opposite of that. And you know, and I mean, Pearl Jam by this point, you know, by Vitalogy, they've got 2 albums under their belt. They're one of the biggest, you know, music brands in the world, and they have the latitude to put something like this on an album. And I'm glad they did, because it adds to the whole picture. And it's like, all right, like these aren't the only, you know, these like arena rockers, but like they can be pretty fucked up if they want to. So I think we're all a little fucked up at some point or another. Like we've all got got some of this in us at some point.
In the words of Drew McFadden, when they're a little fucked up and they're a little sober.
And all of a sudden, Gavin Rossdale of Bush comes out again, because there's always the chance that later on
Gavin
in the episode,
Rossdale's back.
Yeah, it's like, you know how like when you're watching the meteorologist and he's giving the forecast, like, oh, there's like a 20% chance of rain on Friday, and it's like 8 days from now. It's like it probably isn't going to happen, but like there's always that chance.
There's always a chance. Yeah.
There's always the chance.
There's always a chance.
Yeah. There's a couple other ones that I want to briefly mention. I mean, obviously, as a an offshoot of all of his work with Alice in Chains, a lot of Jerry Cantrell's solo stuff, Degradation Trip, I mean, especially the album cover, even Boggy Depot, his guitar ability and just way to convey those feelings. He is a master of that. I think up there with the best of them. You know, I think of a song, even just like the guitar riff to Cut You In, like it sounds unsettling. And there's examples of that all throughout his solo catalog. Additionally,
and the drumming, I think the drumming is really important.
That's a good point.
How it makes it, like, because it's kind of like this, like it's kind of like a dropped out like floor tom with like the bell of the ride cymbal, and it, like, for me, that song, it has like very like intro, like beginning levels of your like murder mystery. It's not like it's not the apple bite. It's not the climax of like what's going to happen.
Right.
But like, it's like when everybody's like, you know, it's at everybody's at underage party, or people are partying in the movie, and like things are getting a little weird. Like Cut You In comes on.
Yes. I think
and then it gets weird from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely would agree with that. Another song that I would like to mention, particularly for the beginning of it, is from Mark Lanigan's Whiskey for the Holy Ghost album, and is called The River Rise. It is the opening track, and the beginning part of it is like it's like one of those music boxes, and evidently, as the legend goes, like this music box or like jacket, whatever it was hanging around in the studio, and Jay Mascis was working on the album, and a deal was brokered that was like, hey, like, he was. Yeah, he was. If you're recording an album between 1991 and 1998, like Jay Mascis was in the studio, like.
Jay Mascis opens the door. Hey, you guys recorded an album? Can I help?
I heard it. Yeah, it's like if an album is recorded but Jay Mascis wasn't around, like, did you really do anything?
Did it ever happen?
Yeah. So evidently he was in the studio, and they decided to. They were like fucking around with this music box or whatever toy. I forget specifically what it was. I haven't read Mark's memoir in a bit. I'm due for like my fourth reread of it. But they decided to include it on the album, but as the opening like piece of the album, and it's really good, and it kind of gives away. River Rise is such a beautiful song, and it really sets the stage. I mean, Mark was completely in the throes of addiction, and this album took him it took him 3 years to make, and he almost threw out the masters of it once because he was going through a lot of different stuff, and his brain and he was not grounded in a lot of ways because of all of the drugs that he was consuming at the time, and this whole album and a lot of what he was going through, it's a weird place to probably inhabit on the daily, and this album is he wanted to kind of make it as like his version of Van Morrison's Astral Weeks. In this album, you can totally feel that when you listen to this record, and it starts off with a very, very kind of weird beginning, which is strange because the album is beautiful. It's so well done. There's so many beautifully delicate songs on there, but it sets the stage. I think without that, you would think of the record maybe a little bit differently. When you drop the needle on this and you hear this weird shit going on before the River Rise kicks in, it's a table setter, and that's another thing that you can use to convey whatever you're trying to convey.
Yeah, and his voice in general, like the deep side of it, the bass and the baritone that he offers is gonna add that spookiness to, or add that like level of unrest, I guess, when you're listening to it, or sincerity. Like, it always seems very serious when he's singing.
Absolutely.
And like listening to this song, it kind of like is that, because it's a lot. The guitar is really light, but then his voice is like so down.
He
low.
had, until he died, he had that type of voice that if you heard it you just felt inclined to stop whatever you were doing and listen in.
Yeah. And kind of like, tune in.
Did.
Exactly.
And I think that's, a great example of it, the River Rise. And it's definitely on my list of kind of spooky songs.
Yeah. And kind of going off of that, another band that I want to talk about that I don't think you have a ton of experience with, Chris.
I think I know where you're going with this,
okay.
and I don't.
Yeah. And they're a band that like I've checked out a few times. They're not like one of my favorites, but Swans has like this, their singer, their lead guy, Michael Gira, he has this like this vocal side of him that's extremely low end as well, and it's very spooky. And they once, described the band, or like they described Swans, the animal is like very majestic, beautiful looking creatures with really ugly temperaments.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how their music goes. Yeah. And they have like some really like eerie and like, you had to listen to them, I guess, but they're like,
I know
it's like you can't,
song, and you're exactly right.
And you're kind of like, all right, is this their thing? And then you listen to a few more songs, like, okay, this is their thing. Like they're very.
This is what they do.
It's like an ugly temperament, yeah. And they have a ton of, and they've been around for a long time. They were like they came together in the '80s, maybe like '86 or something.
Yeah, 1982.
They broke up. 82, yeah, even a little older.
Long time.
And they broke up for a little bit and came back, and they have a few more albums that came out recently. Before 2017 or something, and they're pretty sweet. I'm looking to get into them a little bit more.
They just put out an album earlier this year.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's some new music, which is cool, but I'd have to go back to the early days, of course. And yeah, dude, those like low voices, and they remind me of an Orville Peck.
Sure.
Kind of a more recent guy, and he kind of has it like it's like, it's not country, but it's like Western cowboy
country
rock
influence for sure.
Yeah, and he has like this very deep voice, like, and it's very compelling. Those because there's not many people that can sing like that. So you get Mark, Michael Gira or Orville Peck, like these guys, they have like a different side of music that you don't get every day.
Yeah, you don't hear it all the time.
They're really compelling.
Yeah, you're actually responsible for the only Swan song that I can from memory recall that I really like. Actually, in 2020, I was in the throes of the Big Sad, and you sent me a song of theirs called "No Cure for the Lonely," which is off their 1992 album "Love of Life." And the guitar and Michael's voice are so complimentary of one another, and it's like how to make a bad situation worse. You throw on "No Cure for the Lonely." And because
sorry for that.
There really is no cure. Yeah, Ethan, you took a bad time in my life and you contributed to it becoming worse. How does that make you feel as my friend? It's funny. I would have done the same thing for you. It's important. You got to do that. You got to inhabit that space.
And the way that I found this band, this is a good shout out, and somebody that I would love to actually bring on the pod. Nuke, the handle is Nuke Seattle.
Yeah.
And they posted that song back in the day, and they're like, they kind of do the same thing we do, but like with, the Sonic Youths and the Swans of the world. And he's only got like 3,800 followers, but he's like totally a music guy,
we should collab with him.
I don't know. Yeah, and we've done a few like shared posts, or we've talked about him and posted with him.
Right.
And one time I reached out to him, but he was really, life is hectic and busy.
Yeah, things have been really crazy lately.
But he has a great ear for music, and this is one song. Yeah, "No Cure for the Lonely" came up, and it was pretty great. So, a little shout out there.
That's awesome. So we covered a lot of ground there, a lot of different bands to serve as your soundtrack for the coming days with the Halloween holiday coming up a day after this podcast comes out. Ethan, we were discussing.
I got one more.
I was gonna say, yeah. I'm basically, this is the point in the episode where I'm turning the floor over to you because I know there's a few things that you would like to talk about.
Well, absolutely. Before I get to that, I do want to wrap up one more thing in music. That if we're talking about scary bands and spooky and like the grunge scene or all this stuff, there's one band that absolutely takes the cake for me and is the top of the list. It's the most frightening band that you could listen to. Music videos, lyrics, just the chaos that is involved in their music,
Right.
and that is no doubt Avenged Sevenfold. These guys, if you guys have ever listened to Avenged Sevenfold, they are it's just crazy because he has this really strong voice that kind of cuts through and it's pretty deep and he kind of like talks through like this chaos that is like double bass pedals plus there's like it is a little piece of heaven is like actually terrifying song. It's like 8 minutes and it's like one of the most scariest experience that I had when I was like a teenager listening to that. There's like I said, there's like double bass, but there's also like horns and like kind of like ska and like open hi-hat stuff going on. So it's just like that really chaotic like circus sound. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
But then it's like really deep and like and it is Drew, me and Drew used to listen to them. They have this song called Nightmare. It's really good and it's just like so deep and then like they are hands down the most Halloween band, like however you want to say it, like is a perfect soundtrack. They're freaking crazy.
Absolutely.
And also there's a sad story along with their band as well. Like, one of their members passed away. So
yeah.
You know, there's lore to them as well.
Right. As there tends to be.
I don't even know where to go with this next part. This is the last part before we do songs of the week. I had a good Friday night. Guess we'll just go for it. Had a solid Friday night. It was a solo journey, if you know what I mean. And Chris had posted. Yeah, I know what you mean. You know, the roommate went home to the family. You know, I'm just up there, and you know, Friday nights. You know, if I'll be honest, you know, Friday nights are kind of the scariest of the week. You know,
they can
like
be.
Everybody. I think they're the hardest nights of the week. Sometime when you're
they
home
can be
alone
really
on
hard
Friday
to
night.
navigate on your own.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And this is one of those times. I mean, I was at the gym until like 8, so I came back a little later, had some leftovers, and you know, I was on a solo journey, and then all of a sudden, I popped on the gram and saw Chris had posted Los Lonely Boys, Heaven, and it really caught my attention. So I just want to shout out Chris. What a great post. You always seem to deliver when we need something, when we need exactly this.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
What made you post this first off? Because it's a very, you know, I'm not even sure exactly where they fit in the music scene, but there they were.
Yeah.
You know?
So there's a couple pieces to this, but the simplest version is that I had heard the song earlier in the day. I was listening to one of my old playlists that I used to use when I was training for my marathon, and it was all kind of like more upbeat type stuff, and Heaven by Los Lonely Boys made its way on. So I was in the car, and a lot of times if I'm in the car listening and I'm like, oh shit, I should post that later, I just take a screenshot of it so I remember when I get home. And I did that, and I was sitting at home last night, like around 10:15. I was like, that's right. I'm going to post Los Lonely Boys. So I did it. I posted that same video like 3 years ago, and the reaction was very similar. You know, people, I mean, you got to get down for Los Lonely Boys. And this song was an absolute powerhouse of FM radio when I was growing up. I heard this thing all the time in the car. So it kind of makes me think back to that. And I figured it would be a great song. And I remembered specifically that that performance was from Farm Aid 2003. And I remember when I saw it the first time, like 4 or 5 years ago or whatever, they fucking slammed it. Like, there's only 3 of them. There's only 3 Lonely Boys. You know, there's 2 here right now, but there's 3 in the band. And yeah, man, it was just such a great performance. And I couldn't decide, because the whole song's great. And I was like, I'm not posting the whole song, so I had to decide which part to post. So I decided to take like right after
like 2 minutes though.
Yeah, like right after the bridge ends into the end of the song. But because it was live, they kind of extended the outro jam a little bit. And I was like, I can't cut this off. Like, I wanted to chop it, but I was like, I just can't. I would be doing a disservice to everybody. So I just left it all. And then I got I got a text message from you shortly after I had posted it, which was good. So you had obviously
minutes,
you had obviously seen it, and I think you text me. You just said, "How far is heaven?" And I was like, "I just want to know how far." And then we were off to the races, and you were like, "That jam just set me on fire." Those guys were laying it down, and it was exactly what I needed, and I'm glad it was what you needed, and it could be, maybe more people, it's what they needed.
It really was something. Once they started going and then they hit that end of the song jam that took them to the finish line, and it was so powerful for a 3-person band. It really was special. I watched it like 3 times on the phone, like while I was like trying to text you simultaneously. It just like kept replaying, and I was like, I got to take this to the big screen.
Yeah.
So I pulled it up on the YouTube TV, or the YouTube on the TV, and it was everything I expected.
Yeah.
Little did I know, then the algorithm set in, and the next song that came on was the Marshall Tucker Band, "Can't You See?" and another unreal video. Really, it's just an unreal,
absolutely unreal,
just an absolutely unreal.
This was a big hit. Yeah, this was a hitter.
It was black and white. They had the, as far as film goes, they were doing like the multiple pictures over top of each other, so you saw like
that weird shit they used to do in the 70s.
Yeah, they love like the 50% of each overlaid, and during the harmony stuff, so while people were singing together, the audio is so crisp, but also like it was clearly old audio. So like the drums and like it had this echo, and like it just had like this really awesome sound, like old sound, but it was very clear.
I'll tell you, they were plugged into that bassist.
And then, oh my god, and the bass, literally. I like it was a longer, it was probably like a 6-minute like live performance, and like I was stuck on the bass, and I'm a drummer, so I like the rhythm, and I was like,
totally.
I never wanted to become like a bassist more in my life. I was like, I think I need to learn the bass. Yeah. I was like, this is the time where I pick up another instrument. It happens.
That would be a great origin story.
Because because like you can play with the best of them. Like obviously these songs like are some of the best in the world, and you can play like single notes. So you don't need to play chords. And I don't think I have the dexterity for chords, but I can move up and down the neck. So I'm like, okay, this is right in my zone. Like I got like the rhythm and the thumb side of it, where I don't need to like pick as much and really be like
the right hand is ready for it.
A finger guy. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I need to play some bass. And when that finished up, then if we're just gonna keep going with this,
let's do it.
The next song that came on was the Eagles. It was Hotel California. And naturally, I thought about the Big Lebowski, and I was like, no wonder, that he hated these guys. These guys suck. but it was a live performance from like somewhere in the 70s, and all of a sudden, like they're playing the solo, and it was like, and it's regarded as one of the best. Like when people do like countdowns for top 500 rock songs on your local radio for 4th of July,
it's always like 23.
It's going to be top 5.
It's so high.
No, it's like top 5. It's like legit like number 1. I mean, it's either Stairway,
the Suitcoats
like
love Hotel
California.
Yeah,
those are the 3, and it just depends who's voting. You know what I mean? And but the solo is really beautiful. The dueling guitars. I mean, it's something special. Obviously, especially when you're in the zone. And obviously, it's a song that's been played a ton. But I was thinking about it. I was like, man, how revolutionary! I would have loved to be there when it first started. Like, what it would be to be a diehard Eagles fan from the get go. Right. And so I was in that for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was like, I thought I could conquer music theory. And I was like, I'm gonna figure it all out. I was like,
give a man a Friday night to himself, and all of a sudden he's gonna rewrite the book on music theory.
I was like, man, I've heard music theory thrown around. I was like, I don't know much about it because I'm a drummer, so like, I know music, but like I'm a very basic side of it.
Well, what I need to explain is like, music theory is something that which you have absolutely no experience whatsoever.
Yeah, all I know is every good boy deserves fudge.
That's all you need to know, man.
And so I thought maybe we'd be going off of that. But yeah, like I'm
the only thing I know is Eddie ate dynamite. Goodbye, Eddie.
Yeah, so I'm starting in the back of the line because I'm a drummer,
Right.
and I don't know, like, but so I look it up, and then all of a sudden, it was Victor Wooten explains music theory in 5 minutes. I was like, perfect, 5 minutes. I got that attention
That's all
span.
it will take, I promise.
I was like, I was like, I'm gonna get a really good grasp, and like tomorrow, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna become a bass player, like a session bass player.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, like I was a little confused, and it was a little bit above my pay grade.
That's okay.
But Victor Wooten, he's like one of those bass players that he's just a virtuoso and just incredibly, incredibly gifted in. And like I do believe that like my kid, when I have a kid, I'm definitely gonna have him get into music early. I think the understanding of music and the notes is something that, like, I'm a music guy, but I also, like I said, I'm a drummer, so it's more about like quarter notes and whatnot. It's not really scales and octaves, and I don't comprehend that well. And it kind of kills me because I feel like I don't know. I just wish I was versed in, the music language like that. And like, I can't, like, and Drew's talked about it with us, like producers, like when artists comes in and they're like, I want it to sound like, and they kind of like, da, 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 and they say it. And then like Drew can translate that and put it, and he can actually do it. And that's what it is. Like, I hear things in my head, but I have no way of like putting it down or no way of like creating it.
Totally.
So, like, I feel a little left out when it comes to that. What is your, before I continue on, what is your, like, I mean, because you've been playing guitar for a little bit, like, do you feel like has it been, because, and this is what they say, people talk about how you have to learn music like early on.
Right.
So you probably started when you were 22.
Yeah, like 19, 20, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will explain it this way. I think I know what you're getting
How hard
at.
was it? Yeah.
I'll put it this way. It was not hard at all to learn like the basic stuff, like the chord shapes, like I'm a left-handed guitarist, so I strum with my left hand, and like it was not hard to like get the rhythm down of that, but like I feel the same way when it comes to my guitar playing as I do and I think about it the same way as it would be like if I tried to get into skiing now, for example. Like, I feel like it's just something that, like, if I was going to do it and develop a level of skill requisite with where, like, I would like to be, like, I had to have started a long time ago. And obviously, like, I don't put the time in. Like, I don't research. I don't read. I don't know music theory. I don't know what the chords are. I don't know any of that shit. So like I've just been like the same skill level of guitar player for the past like 4 years. Like, I made all of my gains in the first year and a half, basically, and I haven't gotten any better. Yeah. But I'll put time into it. But it was very easy at the beginning. And it was encouraging, obviously, because it feels good to improve. But then, like, once I reached the part where like I needed another ingredient, I didn't feel like taking the time to shop for that ingredient. So I was like, all right, like, I'm just not making the meal then.
Yeah. Yeah, you can follow along and learn songs. Yeah. And that's why, like, when I hear like Victor Wooten or I'm watching the Eagles, play these solos, and I'm like, they understand the language of music, right? Mm-hmm. They're moving up and down the neck like it's second nature. Like, it's just a language. I'll put it this way. Them.
Remember a couple summers ago when I came, I brought my guitar and you and I jammed with Andy, and like Andy was trying to explain a song to me as you would to somebody who understands music. And I'm like, Andy, like, I don't know what you're like, just like show me what the chords are and I will do it, because I don't know what you mean. I don't know what it's like speaking a different language. I haven't learned it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's like artists today, I feel like, as far as writing out your music, like, people write a song, they're not going to write out like exactly
that's somebody else's job.
Well, do people even do it? Can you get a? Like,
you're asking the wrong person. For my debut album, I didn't.
And like, when people look up like tabs or like tabs, tabs for guitars, like, that's not like, that's not like the musical notes and chords and stuff. It's kind of like just on the fretboard, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like, it's way different. And I feel like, you can bypass like the understanding of music.
Yeah.
And so obviously, as you can tell, I was in a deep hole for the music scene and the music world, and like trying to figure it out. And like, I was a little upset that I didn't like pursue maybe some more music stuff. And then all of a sudden, like it was like, so Victor Wooten finished that. And then all of a sudden it was Victor Wooten's commencement speech for University of Vermont's like arborist or herbitis like club. I'm not even sure. It was like a nature school. And he played the bass the entire time. And he was like, I'm not big on speeches, so I'm just going to talk to you. And so he just like played this like really elaborate bass parts for like 25 minutes while talking over. And I was like, this guy gets music on like a level that is like it's such a small amount of people that can get to this level.
He gets it to the level that it almost feels like he created it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Like it's like
exactly.
it's like such a part of him that it's like he like if somebody like devised a language and it's like this is just what I do. Like this is me. Like
yes, exactly. And I'm like, that is such. Oh my gosh, and it's so cool because when when you do know something to that level, you can actually discover things. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a general basic idea of something, you're not going to discover something, or you're not going to know. You're going to have to like stumble upon something.
Right.
But he knows what he's looking for, and you can find the holes and stuff. And
he has the know-how to get there.
It was incredible. And like, I just pictured like, me and you like at this school, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, Victor Wooten's a speaker. Pretty cool. And then this dude comes up and like he's playing like 5 minutes, like talking. Yeah. And all of a sudden he goes in like a 2-minute bass solo. Yeah. And you're just like, we would just look at each other like, we'd probably laugh pretty hard. Like, what is this guy doing? But it was a really good speech.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing once I get off of this podcast.
I really, Chris, I need you to watch it so I can like,
I'm gonna watch. So you have somebody else.
I need a soundboard. I need a soundboard right now. Like,
well, I'll be happy to do that.
And I was gonna send it to the GB pod with because I feel like Drew should listen to it as well because he will appreciate it a great deal.
Yeah,
so that's a lot of Drew talk. Shout out to Drew McFadden, our producer.
Shout out to Drew McFadden. That guy, shout out to Gavin Rossdale. Happy birthday, Gavin! But especially Drew.
Happy birthday, Gavin. Drew was right when he said Gavin Rossdale would show up later in the pod. Just was a couple episodes deeper.
Exactly. Well, Ethan, we covered a lot of ground today. I think.
I feel like that's all I got.
Yeah, I think that was it. That was insightful. That was stimulating. It was great, and I'm glad I'm a better person because of that podcast episode that we just did.
Yeah, who knew the Grunge Bible podcast got into music theory and.
It's like you see all these people hawking like music theory classes, on social media. Like just listen to this episode. We'll give you everything you need. And the last thing that you need or you may want would be songs of the week. So before we dispense with that, we'd just like to thank everybody, if you're still with us, for listening, for all of your support, whether it's listening, sharing it with a friend, sharing it on social media, buying our merch, becoming a Patreon supporter, leaving a review, sending us a nice message, a good suggestion. Any and all of that is very helpful to us and continues to help us make this show better and make it into what you all would like it to be. So thank you for that. And songs of the week time. Ethan, I will give you the first pick if you are prepared and if you're excited about a song.
Yeah, I have a few songs to pick with, and I'm wondering, are you going to stay in the realm of spooky season, Chris?
I wasn't going to, but I feel like I have to because of how excited I was about some of the songs.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to go with something in that realm as well. So I have two songs that I'll have to put to the back burner.
Okay.
And so my song is "Blind" by Swans.
Nice.
And it's really good. It has this it's just like kind of drum beat that's like all snare with like a picking acoustic guitar behind it, and then his vocals kind of come, and it's kind of very like a floating song and pretty serious at the same time. So it's just a really, really solid song.
Nice. I like that.
You'll
That's
like it.
It's going to be a good one. Yeah, I need to get more into Swans, and this will be a good a good launching point. I never thought I would just say what I just said. I need to get more into swans. But
I know, man.
then
Isn't
again,
that awesome?
I've done a lot of different things that I never thought I would do because of this page in this podcast. That's for the off-camera conversation, Ethan. Maybe that's a Patreon discussion.
Anything for a vote.
All right, my song of the week, I have no further thoughts on it, but it is Apple Bite by Soundgarden. You know why that's my song of the week.
The apple is low-hanging fruit.
Exactly, man. So thank you all for joining us. We hope your October was lovely, and we hope November is everything that you want it to be. We will be back on the in a week's time, I guess, right? We have to.
Yeah, man. Every Monday, baby.
God damn. All right,
dude. Go to a Halloween party. And make sure you bring a sack of apples so you can do a how do you call it?
What? Apple bobbing?
Yeah, bobbing
for apples.
Exactly.
That's not a Halloween thing,
apple
though,
bite.
is it? Apple bite, apple biting, apple bobbing.
Yeah,
whatever.
What do you mean it's not a Halloween thing? What else would it be for?
I don't know. I thought it was like a generic party thing.
Generic. You're not going to do that for Christmas. There's no other. I mean,
no, like I'm talking like
when
funerals
when
and
you
wakes,
said it,
you know.
When you when you said it, I questioned myself. I was like, "Oh shit, did I mess that up?"
I don't know what I'm
What other
about.
holiday would you do apple bobbing for?
Ethan, I want to be done with this. Let's get out of here.
All right, thank you everybody for listening. Please share and follow and like, and we will talk to you guys next week, same time.
Thanks everybody. Stay heavy. Take care.